power, whether red or blue. They could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country before it's long gone. They like our tax dollars and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country before it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country before it's long gone.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's time for Coffee Talk, and as you can tell, I am broadcasting live from Houston in the maddest of houses. And many of you know our Chief of Staff, Daphne Armour. This is a test. This was a test of her stamina to see if she could keep her mouth shut for a full hour, and we have just found out the answer is no. A resounding no, right? So anyway, hey, look, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was, when we're on the road, this is what I do. I set this thing up, and then we do the thing as we can. And of course, since I missed a couple of weeks, I could not avoid being with you tonight. And of course, those of you that know we are here in Houston, working the TNM booth at the Republican State Convention, and it's been rather eventful. I'm sure you guys would agree. The exhibit hall opened today. I mean, the convention hasn't even really officially opened yet. The exhibit hall opened today at 2:00, and we were inundated. I mean, would you guys say that that's pretty much it? Yeah, we were pretty well mobbed at the TNM booth, and it was a phenomenal time. And everyone is talking Texit, and man, that makes me immensely happy. This is really, really, really good stuff. Well, look, here we go. Before we get started, let's go ahead and get a little business out of the way. First and foremost, if you are watching on our one of our YouTube channels, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified anytime we go live. And of course, if you're watching on any of the Facebook pages, you know what to do there. Like, comment, share, and of course, we have got chat available tonight, so feel free to send your questions. I'm going to warn you, though, as you saw probably the email and the article on the TNM site, I've got an awful lot to talk about because it seems like some folks have decided to declare war on the TNM, and you guys know that I love nothing better than a good fight. Additionally, we are broadcasting live for the first time, I believe, reliably on the TNM's Roku channel, right? So if you have a Roku, go there and search for Texas Nationalist Movement TV. Download the Roku app, and you can join us live. And it includes not only live feeds from the TNM, but it also includes archived material plus live feeds from the Texas legislature, including the floor of both the House and Senate, as well as committee rooms, and even cooler than that, for those of you who remember the recorded testimony that we submitted, the virtual hearing for House Bill 1359, that is still streaming there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So be sure to check that out. All right. So again, get your questions in. You can always let's throw this little graphic up there. You can always drop them in chat if you're on either the YouTube channels or the Facebook pages, or you can drop your questions. Let's see, not at my desk. This is weird. Right there, coffeetalk@thnm.org. Guys, don't make fun of me. It's not my desk. This is a table. I did you all a solid so they couldn't see you in the reflection of the windows. Okay, but there is that really interesting bull picture they chopped the head off of, because Dan Armour chopped the head off of that bull and he left it on the TLR's booth table, right? Straight Godfather style. Just a joke. He didn't do that. So if there happens to be a bull's head on their table tomorrow, it was not us. All right. Well, look, many of you have asked. I mean, probably one of the questions I got asked an awful lot today was about the article that was posted related to who in the world is threatening Texas First Pledge signers, right? Candidates who signed the Texas First Pledge. And I'm going to unpack this story for you guys because, frankly, it has been unfolding over the past 48 to 72 hours. It has been really, really interesting. So let's just dive off into it. So many of you are aware that we have what's called the Texas First Pledge, right? We launched it. There's a big article in the Dallas Morning News about it. They were just absolutely flabbergasted that well over 100 candidates had signed the Texas First Pledge and more. And of course, it was one of the big things. It was, we had just about all of Greg Abbott's challengers in the primary sign it. We had two of us in the lieutenant governor primary sign it. Every single candidate Republican candidate for commissioner of agriculture signed the pledge. We had railroad commissioner. We had state rep candidates, state Senate candidates. I mean, and the list goes on and on, including right down to the county and local level. And of course, the pledge is open, right? So we've got other people that are still signing, and of course, people that are running for positions within the Republican Party are signing it. So we had one of the candidates reach out to us. She recently signed the pledge, and she reached out to us. And of course, her name is Terry Leo Wilson. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share this relevant portion of the pledge with you, okay? Because I want you to see what it says. So here it goes. This is in the section, which you can find. There's the link, taketexasback.com/pledge, right? This is all part of our Take Texas Back campaign that we launched at the beginning of last year. But it's at taketexasback.com/pledge. And here's the part that is relevant to the conversation tonight. Now, feel free to go check the whole thing out, right? Go look at the entire pledge. It's there for all the candidates to read. They read it before they fill out the information. And in addition, if you wanted to see, go hit the form like you were going to do the pledge, and you could see the information that they have to put in, right? So there are no accidents where this pledge is concerned, right? They're fully informed of what's in it. They have the form that they fill out that they then submit, right? And it has questions about Article 1, Section 1, Article 1, Section 2. And here's the part that's relevant to the conversation tonight. So as we talk about what transpired with one of the state representative candidates who signed the pledge, this is the section that was cited as being potentially problematic, right? Now, again, not before they signed it, but sometime after. And here's what it says. It says, if it is within the powers of my office, which as a state rep it would be, right? I will file or co-author legislation to enable a vote on Texas reasserting its status as an independent nation in every term that I am elected until such a referendum is held. Now, the interesting thing about that particular provision is that it doesn't say Biederman's House Bill 1359. It doesn't say that the T&M's Texas Independence Referendum Act. It just essentially says that they will either file or support legislation that guarantees the rights of the people under Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. It's really a trigger point for us, right? I mean, it is a litmus test. And if you've listened to anything that I have said over these last several months or years, it's simply this. Article 1, Section 2 gives us that it enumerates the right of self-government, that right of self-determination as an inalienable right, right? And if you think about what other rights are inalienable, like the right to keep and bear arms, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, we should guard that right as jealously and as passionately as we guard those rights, right? If it's inalienable just like the rest of them, we should treat an encroachment upon that in the same way that we treat an encroachment upon the others. So this provision is in there to effectively say, look, as a person who signs this pledge, you're just guaranteeing that you will uphold the constitutional right of the people of Texas to decide our political future. Not saying you're for Texas, not saying you're against Texas, not saying we even care what your position is. It says that at a minimum, you should care about the voice of the people, right? So all of a sudden, we start getting emails from this particular candidate, right? And the candidate is Terry Leo Wilson, who is a candidate for House District 23. She won a runoff and is now headed to the general election, getting ready to sail right on through. And her constituents reached out to her and encouraged her to sign the pledge. And that's essentially what she did, okay? Well, then on June 12th at 1:07, notice we timestamped it here, we get this email. And it says this: I did not see anywhere on the pledge, and it might be my error, as I cannot see what I signed now, which, again, if you go to that link, it's there, okay, that I was agreeing to author legislation to remove Texas from the Union, which is not what it does, or any other legislation that I agree to file on behalf of your organization. Again, doesn't require them to do that. So she says, please remove me from your signers, as I cannot agree to file legislation on any bill I have not seen or read. I do apologize for the inconvenience. Please remove my name. Thank you, Terry Leo Wilson, HD 23 candidate. Now, this is not the first time that we've had a candidate disavow pledge. As a matter of fact, back during the campaign when the Dallas Morning News ran their article, they actually mentioned David Shank, who was running for the Texas Supreme Court justice. And Shank was like, "Oh, well, I was busy and I didn't read it." And my response to the reporter was, "Well, I can think of few things far more terrifying than a potential Supreme Court judge who would sign something that they didn't read." I mean, when you think about it, it's absolutely frightening, right? It's a kind of a Nancy Pelosi move, right? Well, we got to pass the bill to see what's in it. It sounds like Obamacare all over again, right? So it is pretty frightening that we would have someone who would want to represent us and deal with legislation that would be more than willing to put their name on something that they didn't read. Okay. But again, the characterization there was something that really was not in the pledge. And as we know, the pledge is readily accessible, right? It's there, it exists. You can go to it at any time at that link. Here, let me throw it back up there. At that link, taketexasback.com/pledge. It's not hidden. If you go to the website, you can click the button that says read the pledge, right? You can hit that button and see it. There's the pledge. Okay. So I don't know how it could be a surprise. But of course, here's the other part. We're all at the convention right now. We're getting ready for the convention. There's lots of things to do. So something like that is honestly not a high priority. Somebody wants to pledge their word, give their word on something and retract it. It's honestly not the highest priority on our list, right? Especially when we're all busy. Now, we will respect someone's wishes to be wishy-washy, right? If that's the way they want to be and that's the kind of character they want to exhibit, we'll let them fall into that folly, right? If that's the kind of person they want to be and that's what they want to communicate to the world, we are more than happy to allow them to do that. But again, it's not the highest priority for us. So it was not just one email. It became phone calls to every person on the national leadership team that they could possibly try to get a hold of. Voicemails, emails, just absolutely manic behavior. Okay. Well, that in and of itself was unusual. So finally, our executive director, Nate Smith, was able to respond to the email. And here's what he said. He said, "Terry, we have removed your pledge from our website," right? Which is exactly what we did. We went there, removed the pledge. We did publish it to our audience at the time your pledge was originally accepted on multiple social media channels that you have signed the pledge. Okay. I mean, it's news. It was communicated. She signed the pledge and it went out via social media. And, it's kind of like blowing on a dandelion and trying to call it back and put it back together, right? So Nate says, "Likewise, many of our supporters are actively supporting your campaign based on the initial action of signing the pledge. At the time we remove these notices, we must also notify our supporters that you have formally withdrawn your support for that pledge. Before we do that," and here's where Nate he spreads out the diplomat skills, right? He's like, "Look, I don't want you to make a mistake, right?" He says, before we do that, before we start trying to scrub social media and try to print a retraction and all, go through all this, I wanted to address that the pledge does not require you to author or sign any bill that you have not seen, read, or with which you disagree after reading. Right? I mean, look at what it says again. "If it is within the powers of my office, I will file or co-author legislation to enable a vote on Texas reasserting its status as an independent nation." It doesn't say you must sign on to our bill or you must sign on to a specific bill. If you don't like any of the ones that have been filed, go file your own. It just simply says you'll do it. You actually care about the constitutional rights of the people of Texas. And look, let me be honest with you. If you're running as a Republican and you want to set yourself as distinct from Democrats, then you will uphold the constitutional rights of the people. Because let's be honest, the Democrats don't really want to be pinned down on protecting the rights of anybody. And we fully expect it to happen from Republicans. But again, I digress. So Nate goes on, and he's again very diplomatic, probably more so than me because I could be a jerk about these sorts of things. I heard that somebody chuckled in this room, and it was inappropriate. he says this. He says, come on, there we go. I wanted to address that. So he says all that, with which you disagree after reading. He says, as you can expect, 100 fellow candidates would share this concern, and we would also find such a requirement as completely unacceptable, right? And what Nate's talking about there is all of the other people that read the pledge, that signed the pledge, that ran for office, including the candidates for governor and lieutenant governor and ag commissioner and on and on and on, all the way down to precinct chairs, all of them that saw it and had and completely 100% understood that nobody was putting a gun to their head and saying, you must absolutely do this one thing for us, right? You must support this one bill that has this specific language, and if you don't, you're breaking, nothing like that. I mean, it's about as broad as you can possibly get with just an agreement to uphold the rights of the people of Texas, right? So he goes on to say, he quotes the specific language that I showed you just a moment ago, and he says, by agreeing to file or co-author legislation, it is still within your sole discretion what bill you sign on to. The only obligation is that if no other bill is amenable to you that has been filed, that you will file your own bill with whatever language you desire that includes a call for a vote on Texas reasserting its status as an independent nation. You're not pledging to sign any bill you do not approve of or have not read or authored. Okay. Now, before I continue, I just want to again reiterate, the personal feelings on the matter of Texas are not the issue. The issue is whether or not a candidate will uphold Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. Now, remember, the first day they serve, they jam their hand up in the air and they swear an oath to protect and defend that Constitution. And that includes Article 1, Section 2 of the Texas Constitution. And if they're not willing to do it in a pledge ahead of that, what makes us think for a second that we can trust the oath that they take on their first day in office? Something to think about. So Nate, again, being very diplomatic, if this is still unacceptable, please let me know and we will make the appropriate retractions. Otherwise, we'll be happy to reinstate your pledge or, of course, answer any additional questions. I mean, that's just nice. That is so nice. He's like, look, I see, maybe you misunderstood, but I'm willing to work with you here and help walk you through this so you feel more comfortable with it, right? And here was her response. Yes, please retract and do a statement as you deem necessary. Well, this is what we deem necessary. Welcome to Coffee Talk, Terry. This is how we do it, right? We always let our people know when things like this happen, right? Because it's not, these are not my words. This is what happened. This is the facts, right? So it was retracted. And then because, again, we've been busy, we didn't have time to go chase down every tweet or every Facebook post or everything else. Well, suddenly, boom, it ramps up again. June 14th, right at 8:14 a.m. Hi, Nate. I'm on the rules committee at the convention. I'm going to have my husband, Dave Wilson, follow up. The tweet is still up. Is there any way you can please delete the tweet? If you need a retraction to put on the website, okay. I'm getting a lot of backlash and really need this to come down. I appreciate it. Okay. But again, we didn't answer within 20 minutes. And there was another email. And my friends, this is where we get to the thing that we talk about. See, it's all about getting to the root of things, right? When people do things out of character. Because let me tell you, I know Terry by reputation, and I know her to be a staunch defender of liberty and of constitutional rights. And so this is something that is entirely out of character. I mean, we know so many people in common. We've been in the trenches together and probably not really knowing each other, but running in those same circles of true fighters for liberty, right? And so it's out of character, and there's always some motivator. Well, here you go. Here's what Terry says. She says, I'm getting threats, Nate. Can you please just delete the tweet? Now, remember, it's been 20 minutes. Okay. Busy. He's been busy. Okay. It's been 20 minutes since you sent your last email. Put the retraction on your website if you must, but I'm begging you to take it down. I do not want Texas to leave the union, which means also apparently she doesn't want you to vote on that either. Okay. I did not see that on what I filled out. It was a huge error on my part. I know you're busy. I am too. I'm trying to concentrate on Rules Committee, which ran until midnight yesterday, and my phone is blowing up. Wow. Okay. So Nate responds. He says, I find it unacceptable and despicable that anyone is threatening you for honoring the Texas Constitution and supporting our right to vote on Texas independence as reflected in Article 1, Section 2, by altering, reforming, or abolishing our government in such manner as we may think expedient. Right? And ultimately, Nate is correct. The fact that anyone would threaten someone who is either running for office or standing up for the constitutional right, the God-given and inalienable right of self-determination is despicable, right? It's abhorrent. Okay. He says, if these are threats of safety, I hope you immediately contact law enforcement. I mean, that's concern. I also hope you take appropriate action against any Republican standing against the will of 66% of Republicans who wish to leave the union. He goes on to say, I tried to delete the tweet after my 10 o'clock meeting as promised. However, I do not normally access the TNM's Twitter account, and my credentials are no longer valid. I have requested our social media manager to contact me immediately on multiple channels to get it removed. As an interim step, I have personally commented on the post stating you have removed your signature from the pledge. I expect it to be deleted within the next hour. Well, it seems that while this was all going on, Terry's husband, Dave, did indeed seek out Nate at the convention once they realized that, we're essentially all in the same building right now, right? Dave goes down and he finds Nate, and he tells Nate the nature of the threats because Nate expressed concern. Hey, this is serious. Hope you guys called the cops or did whatever. And here's what he said. He told Nate that the threat actually came from a donor. From a donor. Not a physical threat, but a financial threat to withdraw financial support from her campaign. And he threw a figure out there of $600,000. Now, that figure is going to be very important as we continue on, because what we find out, because I don't want to get to that part yet, I want to get to the part where we deal specifically with the fact that the pledge was withdrawn, according to her husband, because the threat of donor money being pulled, and that support may be shifting to somebody else or being aimed at her. So what that meant was, much like Judas sold out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, a pledge to support your right under Article 1, Section 2 was retracted for the hefty sum of $600,000. I don't know how you should feel about that. Maybe you feel about that how you feel about it. I know how I feel about it. And I don't like it, because it essentially is what we have suspected for a very long time is happening in the Texas legislature in regard to the Texas issue. You think back to Chris Patty, and you think back to some of these guys like Travis Clardy and some of these other guys that just come out so vehemently against your right to vote on independence, right? I mean, they just, and it has no rational place, right? And I think back to that story of Leo Berman when he was a state representative and how Strauss threatened to tank all of his immigration bills if he filed our legislation, right? Things like that. But we've always suspected that at the root of some of these was money, right? There was a money motivator. And that was, that was actually given to us, uh, kind of a peek behind the curtain with Briscoe Kane, right? We as an organization helped to get Briscoe Kane across the finish line, his runoff against Wayne Miller all those years ago. He won by, like, I think it was a dozen votes. And had it not been for our people on their own deciding to go and whip up the troops and get out the vote for Briscoe Kane would not be a state rep right now. Okay. But in the subsequent conversations to that, where there had been some discussion about filing our legislation, he flat said, if I do that, do you know how much money I'm going to have to raise in the next primary, because they will find somebody to run against me? So we knew there was always this money motivation, right? But the $600,000 figure really stuck with me, right? So, you know me, I don't let things go. And so my first visit was to the Texas Ethics Commission website. And I go to the Texas Ethics Commission website and I go pull Terry Wilson's campaign finance reports. And, it's funny, $600,000 was not that far off the mark, especially when I came across this page where, here we go. You're going to love this. Notice from a political committee, the Texans for Lawsuit Reform PAC. And look at those political contribution totals there, right on those support totals, $585,490. Now, I didn't have a chance to spreadsheet this out, but I suspect that if I go tally up all of TLR's in-kind contributions or direct contributions, if I go tally all those up, I am going to probably come somewhere close to that $600,000 figure. And maybe not on just this report. Maybe when I tally up all the reports from the cycle, it's probably going to hover right around there at $600,000. So what that told me was, as someone who can really put simple puzzles, I mean, this is like a puzzle with 4 pieces, right? I mean, this is not that complex at all. Take my name off your pledge. I didn't know what I was signing. Okay, well, maybe I did, but I'm actually being threatened. But it's not like a real physical threat. It's a threat that they're going to pull $600,000. Oh, let's see who's donated in that neighborhood. Oh, it's TLR PAC. Well, what that tells me is that the threats came very likely from Texans for Lawsuit Reform. Now here's what's interesting. If you heard of Texans for Lawsuit Reform, good for you, because you understand the underhandedness that they have in relation to Texas politics. But here's what I did, just to give some of you guys a little playback example. TLR has been playing in the establishment politics for a very long time, right? They have been big backers of the political establishment. So all of the guys that you see run under the Republican banner, and you expect one mode of conservative behavior, but you get something completely different, odds are it's because of TLR's money propping them up in the election cycle. As a matter of fact, so what I did, here's an oldie but goodie. Are you guys ready for this one? An oldie but goodie. Many of you remember Claver Kamau Imani, who ran for the seat that Lacey Hull currently occupies. And Claver had that race in the bag until in rides the cavalry for Lacey Hull in the form of TLR. And so this was a campaign ad that was released by Claver's campaign that details a little bit about Claver and most people's problems with TLR.
Other endorsed by TLR. The other endorsed by TLR. The other endorsed by TLR.
Okay. Okay. So here's the fun part, right? So that's an oldie but goodie, and I had to let the thing run all the way through. It's Claver's campaign ad, and I thought it was a really good one. But let's look at it. Many people said, okay, well, TLR money won't change Lacey Hull, but how many of her people have come out, her friends, her close allies since then, and said, wow, she was compromised, right? But look at all the things that TLR does. So, but I'm still trying to track this. It's like, why all of a sudden has TLR decided to go to war with the TNM, right? Because that's essentially what it is. It's like, okay, you're going after one candidate. Is this a pattern, right? What is it? Why is TLR coming after the TNM and coming after our people? Because, like, it's not like we've actually even really thought much about TLR, right? I mean, we just don't give a crap about those guys other than the fact that, what you just saw in that video. But, so I'm sitting here thinking, why in the world all of a sudden now would TLR decide that they want to come after the TNM? Oh, what is that? What in the world? Oh, that's TLR proudly endorses Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Man, that guy just can't let it go, can he? Right? I mean, that guy just can't let it go. I'm not saying that it's him, but I'm just saying in politics, there are no coincidences, right? There are no coincidences. And you see, if this was isolated to just one candidate, you could say, whatever, right? But then all the delegates started getting text messages from, well, here it is. Text message came in. A message from the Coalition for Good Government. Man, that just sounds nice and fuzzy, doesn't it? I mean, doesn't that just sound glorious? Coalition for Good Government. Adrian Pena Garza is the only legitimate candidate for RPT vice chair who has not signed an absurd pledge to support Texas seceding from the USA. Okay, look, I can tell you, that is about the dumbest text message I've ever seen. I mean, that is the most hyperbolic bunch of bull crap that you can imagine. That's ridiculous. I mean, Jesus Marimba. Can we all agree that is dumb? That was like written by a seventh grader. I mean, the only thing that it was missing was like a whole bunch of emojis and like all lowercase, right? Other than that, it was indistinguishable from a seventh grader's text message. Okay. But again, this was forwarded to us, and it intrigues me because we're dealing with this Terry Leo Wilson situation, and obviously we are uncovering that TLR's fingers are all in it, right? And we've made the money connection. Then this happens. This text goes out, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, who in the world are these people, right? I mean, really, who in the world? So we go pull the TEC reports for the Coalition for Good Government, and we find out that they're a PAC that was started in January. Now, I say that they're a PAC because that would be a pretty broad description, because they have almost no cash donations whatsoever, like no donations from anybody. I mean, just a handful, 100 here, 25 there, whatever, but like nothing except for a bunch of in-kind contributions from this guy named Robert Flanagan. Okay. It's like, okay, well, who is Robert Flanagan in Clockwork Consulting, and why, frankly, is he doing a whole bunch of in-kind, aka pro bono crap for this pack that basically exists on paper, other than a couple of contributions they probably got, stifling through the take a penny jar at the convenience store, right? What is this guy? Who is this guy? Well, I start doing a little digging because while the person who technically is the treasurer of the pack is, I find, kind of interesting, and we can cover him another time, but he works for another consulting firm who, here in Texas, their biggest person using their services just happens to be George P. Bush, right? Whole topic for another time. But I start doing my digging on Robert Flanagan, and here's what I come across. You see, Robert Flanagan is not new to Texas politics. In fact, at least as far back we know as 2017, he was the district director and the communications director for Texas Senator Paul Bettencourt. Now, those of you may remember Paul Bettencourt as the guy who always offers you property tax reform and relief, but never repeal or abolition. And the reason being is Paul Bettencourt makes his money off of your property taxes, off of the fact that you have to go protest or do whatever. That's his livelihood, right? So he has no motivation to really do anything about your property taxes, right? So I happened to make a tweet that somebody sent out about this, and made a tweet about it and said, oh, well, this guy's, Bettencourt's communication director. I had to go correct myself, right? I can admit when I'm wrong, and I was wrong. He's not Bettencourt's current communication director. He's his former, right? As evidence there. But it really stuck in my head because we know that Bettencourt was Dan Patrick's chosen successor in the state Senate, right? As a matter of fact, those two guys are attached at the hips. And so Dan Patrick says, jump. Paul Bettencourt says, my knees are bad, but how high, right? So the question is, why is Bettencourt's people getting all in this, right? Is Bettencourt all in this? Well, as you may be aware, some additional signers of the Take Texas Back, the Texas First Pledge, as you can imagine, have been contacted, right? They have been contacted. I'm gonna throw a picture up here for you here in just a sec. Boop. Is it there? Could it be? Boom shakalaka. Look at that. And there they are, right? Two of the candidates for vice chair for the Republican Party of Texas, the ones that the people supporting, that sent that ridiculous 7th grade tweet, that the person that they're advocating for is running against these two absolutely fine candidates, right? Dr. Dana Myers, Alma Jackson, two outstanding ladies that are just phenomenal people, right? So they're essentially attacking them. Well, come to find out, it seems that Senator Bettencourt has entered the field because not being satisfied to either shill for TLR, right, or have TLR shill for him or whatever kind of ridiculous nonsense they're doing, he picks up the phone and is calling county party chairs to put pressure on these ladies to also rescind their pledge. And let me tell you a little short story about these two ladies. They flat told them to go pound sand. They said they were not going to rescind their pledge, and no one would ever threaten, force, or cajole them into backing out on their word to put Texas and Texans first. Sounds like a lesson that should be taught to a certain person who may or may not be entering the Texas House come January, right? But that's what backbone looks like. They said, I gave my word, and I believe in putting Texas and Texans first and all these things that are in here. And there's no amount of threats or cajoling or no amount of money you're going to pay me to break my word. Well, you know what that is? That's called character. And it's something that we need an awful lot more of. Unlike the person who signed the pledge that's running for SREC, who she contacted us because apparently they got to her and she freaked out and now she wants to be removed. So you see, the pieces are moving on the board. They know our time is now and they know that their time is short. And so the only thing they've got now is to go around to these candidates and threaten them with money, offer to buy them off, cajole, do anything they can to persuade them to violate their principles. The thing that they do to maintain their power in Texas government and the thing they've done for so long. So the one thing that we know for sure is that the only way that we're ever going to combat this, the only way we're ever going to get the government that we absolutely need and deserve here in Texas is to expose these sorts of things, right? So when Jeff Kaysen did his podcast and began to explain all the things that were happening behind the scenes in the Texas legislature that people didn't know, that was phenomenal. The thing that we do in the T&M, that when things like this happen, we unpack it because you as Texans, you deserve to know when you are being dealt with this shady nonsense coming out of Austin, Texas, right? When Austin wants to behave like Washington, D.C., it's important that we let you know that. And sure, some people are going to be upset that we aired this out. And you know what? I don't care because it's part of what we do. It's part of our mission, right? It's part of what we do as the T&M. As it says there in our mission is to secure and protect the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas and to restore and protect a constitutional republic and the inherent rights of the people of Texas. So what kind of service would we be giving? What kind of an organization would we be if we turned a blind eye to this sort of thing? When somebody came to us and said, I give you my word, I will do these things. And they said, sorry, somebody threatened me with money, or somebody paid me off, or threatened to take away money. And they went back on their word, not just to us, but they went back on their word to you. What kind of an organization would we be if we let that thing slide? And I know that it becomes politically uncomfortable for some people. I mean, trust me, this is not the most comfortable conversation I'm having because, as I said earlier, I run in circles with some of these people. We have friends in common. We've been to the same events. We literally saw Terry walk by our booth today and sit at a booth not 30 feet from us. So it is uncomfortable. But rather than have you email us and beg us and want to know, well, how come she was on here? How come she's not? Or worse, having you still believe that she was going to uphold her pledge when she had in fact revoked it. I mean, it's just unconscionable. So the bottom line here is this, folks. We're here we're here in Houston at the Republican Party of Texas convention to do battle for you. And many of our volunteers are here, almost 1,000 that we've already identified, right? People that are here. Our booth is inundated. Everyone here is talking about Texas. Our candidates, for the most part, with the exception of the one SREC person who backed out, all of our candidates that are running for SREC or chair or vice chair, right? They're standing firm because people understand that at a minimum, Texans deserve the right to decide our political future. We deserve to have our rights under Article 1, Section 2 adhered to and upheld. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And so we're here fighting for you. So when we're out there, we're out there talking to all these people. And I'm going to tell you, there is no other issue going on inside of that convention right now that is eliciting the buzz that Texas is. The Texas issue is the issue. And while the Legislative Priorities Committee, unfortunately, Julie was giving us the Julie Dahlberg, she was giving us the entire rundown of what was going on behind the scenes. And although some of the establishment folks didn't want that to be a legislative priority, while it may not be a legislative priority in the platform by the time this is all over with, it will still be in the platform. But more importantly, it will be a legislative priority for Texas Republicans. And even if that doesn't translate to legislators, that enthusiasm can translate into pressure, which can be put on those legislators. And so we're here doing that right now. So we continue to fight. We're here in the Alpha House. If I could turn this camera around, you'd see the pizza. I mean, we're doing this. There is T&M merch and boxes and crap from one end of this place to the other. But we're working it hard, and I'm going to tell you, it's taken every one of our volunteers to do it because the excitement is that much. So, anyway, I don't have a call to action for you specifically on what I've told you tonight, other than for those that have stood strong and upheld their pledge. You know what to do. You know exactly what you need to do. You need to head over to that website that I showed you just a moment ago. Right? Head over to taketexasback.com. And when you go there, go look at the candidates. Scroll down through. Look for those. If you're at this convention, if you're one of those delegates, go look for those candidates and support them. You go find them and you shake their hand and you tell them how much you appreciate the fact that, unlike some people, they adhere to their word. Their word means something. Their word is their bond. Thank them for that. And then for those that decided that their word was meaningless, well, do what you will. It's not my problem. And for those of you that know that if you're at the convention and you see the TLR booth there, the last time I saw there was nobody there. I mean, they basically had a tablecloth and a cardboard sign, and that was it, right? I think the question for them is why you want to go to war with us? You got money, but we got something better than money. We got people. So you don't want to mess with us. Go ask Chris Patty what we can do with a bunch of people and a bunch of telephones, right? So here's the bottom line. Like I said, we don't have this call to action, but you know what to do. I don't need to tell you what to do. You know what to do, and you know the right thing to do. So go do that. Let's take the high road here. Let's support those people that support the principles that we believe in, and let's shun the rest. We don't need them. Okay, we've got enough people as it is, and we know that there are people out there that just need to connect with the T&M, and we don't have time to deal with the knuckleheads. So that being said, I've got a few more minutes. Like I said, it was going to take up a big chunk of the time, but I'll see if I can take a couple of quick questions, and I'll tell you guys what the rest of the rundown is going to be this week, so you can come see us, and we'll get there. So let's do this. All right. Susan Williamson says, who, by the way, is doing a phenomenal job on the platform committee. She says, we have 2 planks coming out of temporary platform committee. Gotta love that. Congratulations to all of you that have worked that thing and been there for all those committee meetings, and especially to those of you on the committee that see the light, that understand that the people of Texas at a minimum deserve to have their voices heard. Okay. And hey, Stephen, Stephen, thank you for the super chat. Stephen says, let's get the business out of the way. I don't know what business that is, but I agree with you. Okay. Let's get down to this. Chris asked a question about what time should delegates be there in the morning. I don't know. I'm not the RPT, so I don't know the answer to that. Okay, Gary. Hey, thank you, man. You're watching on the Roku channel. You say it's working great. Thank you. That is so awesome, man. I appreciate that. We're getting our Roku channel all caught up, so you're about to have a bunch of content on there. So be prepared, because it's all sort of part of the launch of that cool thing that we were talking about but didn't really talk about last week. Okay, David says, he asked, are there any organizational meetings for us at the state convention? Okay, so David, if you're at the state convention and you're a TNMer, drop us an email. If you want to drop it over to coffeetalk@thetnm.org, we'll get you the appropriate links. All of the TNM delegates, or many of the TNM delegates, not all of them, but many of us are communicating on a channel, and we're doing some get-togethers, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. Okay, Andy, I am so sorry. That is going to be a very long question, but here, I'll show it to you. If Texit proceeds, what is the position on currency? I talk a good bit about it, some in the book, in the Texit book. It's on the website at texitnow.org. As a matter of fact, if you go back, either last Coffee Talk or the one before, I actually do talk about currency. That question's come up an awful lot lately. And so pretty much you dig back in the last 5 coffee talks and you're going to find where it's addressed. So, but thank you for your question. Okay. So here's my understanding. My understanding is we have an event tomorrow night. Am I right? Okay. Who wants to come give me some details? Okay. Daphne's holding up her hand. I don't know if she's getting ready to slap me or what's happening. Okay, so I'm getting the details fed to me. I suspected something was happening. Okay. Okay, so we're going to be participating in an event. Okay, so this goes to your question, David. Of course, we'll get something out to everyone on the delegates list, and for those of you, because it's not just delegates only; it's anybody can come, right? And the name of the venue is. Okay, so the venue is True Anomaly here in Houston, and it will be from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, and I will be there. All of us will be there, but I think are we speaking? Is there okay? So there'll be some presentation, but I'll be there with Weston Martinez. You guys remember him? He ran for land commissioner. You guys know he's been a friend and ally of the TNM for a very long time. He's now working on the voter fraud issue, and I'll be speaking there along with him and with Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller. So, True Anomaly, 4 to 6, right here in Houston. We'll get details up on the website. Correct. 2012 Dallas Street in Houston. Man, that is not confusing in the least. Can we do something post Texas and make it to where cities can't name streets after other cities, because that is just bloody confusing. That is just a calling for confusion, right? Okay, so that being said, we've got that going on. Also, there's a schedule. If you go look at the events, I'm actually doing some book signings at the convention, just like I did 4 years ago with Defiance Press. We're doing it with the TNM booth. I'm doing some book signings there. And not going to lie, you may be able to catch me outside the venue some, because, here's a little secret. I get a little bit closed in when I'm surrounded by a lot of people. So sometimes I have to escape. Now all of a sudden, security guys over here looking at me like, you just told people to drive by you, right? I'm going to get the lecture after this is over with. Can't win for losing. All right. Well, look, guys, that is it. Unless there are any other questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. We'll get that event on the calendar for you guys to see. Please, if you are at the convention, if you're a delegate or alternate or guest, go RSVP on the event on the TNM page, right? So go to tnm.me and RSVP. You'll get your email. Bring that email to the booth, and we will scan it. And when we scan it, you get the first 100 people get a freebie. So you got to love that. All right, let's get down to it. Let me just do my reminders. As always, if you are not already a member of the Texas Nationalist Movement, please head over to tnm.me/join and join us today. tnm.me/join. We would love to have you as a member. And of course, if you are not already a volunteer at the TNM, we can use all the volunteers we can get. tnm.me/volunteer. That is tnm.me/volunteer. And if you have backbone like Alma and Dr. Dana, then you know what? Why don't you run for office? Because we need more people like them to run for office. So join the Take Texas Back campaign. Head over to taketexasback.com/run-for-office. The time starts now, right? I know everybody thinks that it's too late to get in the game, but it's not the case, right? The next election has already started, whether you realize it or not. So head over to taketexasback.com/run-for-office and learn more. All right. Well, I am signing off from our communal quarters here in Houston as we all because we got to hit it pretty early tomorrow. Thank you to all of the TNM volunteers that are here, that are helping out, that have just been tearing it up at the convention. And of course, a big welcome to all of you brand new folks that just connected with us at the convention. We love you, we appreciate you, and we thank you for helping Texas become a free and independent nation. So I will leave you with the words that I leave you with at the end of every live broadcast, the end of every speech. Not my words, but the words of Sam Houston, when he said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. I believe that time is now. And the question is, Will you stand with her? Good night, everyone.